How hard is it for landlords to remove tenants in a place like San Francisco where landlords have no property rights? Well, landlords on average are paying over $50,000 per tenant in order to buy them out of their units. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it's going over the buyouts that landlords are paying in San Francisco, California. So we know that California has some of the most strict anti landlord laws in the entire country, okay? And they want landlords to suffer. They want us to suffer, and that seems to be the truth. The goal overall seems to be to go move over to a socialized housing, platform and bankrupt all the landlords because they believe that we're greedy. They believe that the reason rents are high is because of landlords. They don't want to look in the mirror and say, well, maybe all of these restrictive housing policies, maybe all these rules and regulations, maybe they're driving up the cost of housing. Maybe it's making it harder to build. And because of that, less people are building, which means there's less supply. And that means that costs are going to be more expensive for the supply that exists already. So, yeah, they don't want to look in the mirror and face the facts that, hey, landlords are not to blame. Okay, we are a reflection of the market as a whole. We can only charge the rents that people are willing to pay. We can't charge anything more than what people are willing to pay. Now, they want to cap the rents and do some stuff like, communist Russia used to do, which is, basically say, oh, well, we're going to put this artificial price control on the price of stuff, and we're going to make it darn near impossible for you to evict anybody. So landlords, what do we do when we want to get rid of a tenant in one of these properties, right? We have to pay them. We have to pay them to leave because going through the eviction process, it's not even an argument. It's way too hard to evict a lot of these tenants. So it's better just to give them money and tell them, please leave. And in San Francisco, it looks like the average amount that landlords are paying these tenants is about $50,000 to leave. Now, because property values are so high there and you have the potential to make so much money by getting that tenant out of there, it might work well for you to pay this amount. And I personally believe that $50,000 is on the low end when you're talking about some of the more popular neighborhoods within the city. Think about the fact that there are so many, tech millionaires, tech billionaires who live there. Very, very highly paid IT workers. And, you're making $700,000-800,000 a year. Who cares if you're paying $10,000 a month rent to live right in the heart of the city? Okay, that's nothing to you. Okay, so yeah, there is a good profit incentive for landlords to remove these tenants and get tenants in there that are paying much closer to the market rate rents. So I understand if you can work the numbers out, I believe it's a good idea. And I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying it isn't right. It's not right. The landlord should be forced to do this sort of thing. But it was all created by the policies that the city itself put into place. Okay, they put these policies into place. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of landlords having to pay tenants $50,000 to leave their units? Obviously, I understand why landlords are doing it. And if you work the numbers right, maybe it's a good idea. Yeah, but I don't like that it has to be done. Okay. And I'm just curious what everyone else thinks about it. So, anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. This article is coming from socketsite.com and it says average tenant buyout was over $50,000 in San Francisco last year. And it might have been over $50,000, but I think that might be low because, there were a lot of employers leaving San Francisco. The job market has softened a bit. I'm sure before the pandemic, it might have even been higher than that. But anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. Landlords in San Francisco inked 389 legally recorded tenant buyout agreements last year, as mapped above, effectively equal to the 391 agreements inked in 2021, but with 618 pre-buyout negotiation forms having been newly disclosed as well. The highest reported buyout agreement totaled $460,000 last year, according to the queries of the city's database. A total which was split between two holdout tenants in a 6 unit building in Pacific Heights, with the largest buyout per tenant totaling $300,000 for one of the 2 units in a Pacific Heights duplex that was acquired with the tenant in early 2021. I'm curious about that one there, and maybe I'll look that up in the future. I'm just curious. Like I don't know San Francisco, so is Pacific Heights one of the most popular neighborhoods in the city? That's my guess. It's the most popular neighborhood, and the property itself being only a 6 unit building. I can't see. Like if you're paying off, it said $460,000 to get two tenants up out of there. Like what are like are you going to be able to fix the property up and then make up for that plus an extra million or $2 million? Because that's what I imagine. I imagine that, hey, this is still a very, very good deal for those who invested in it. Now, this isn't the kind of deal that I would personally like to do, but if the numbers work, do it. Do it. I don't suggest that people who are small landlords, such as myself, who own just a few properties, jump into that, because that's such a huge financial investment to make, and it could go wrong. So, but if you're experienced in it, you understand the market well, go for it. But you're still stuck with a property in San Francisco. Even if you get all of the rent control units up out, turned over to market rate, eventually they could be going back into rent control. Eventually, the city's going to put more and more restrictions on you. They're going to make things more difficult. This is a good property for a flip. Get in, get out. But do you want to hold on to this property in a place like San Francisco where you're going to be punished? You're going to be punished by the city just for the mere act of investing in the city, for putting your hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into the city. They want to punish you for that. Like you are the problem. Well, you know what? I don't feel like dealing with that. There's plenty of places throughout the rest of the country where I can still make good money and not have to deal with that nonsense. The reported buyout agreement in San Francisco totaled $53,828 last year. The average reported buyout agreement in San Francisco totaled $53,828 last year, according to our queries, with an average payout of $35,720 per tenant, which was up from an average of $46,676 and $29,270 per tenant in 2021, which was up from an average agreement of $44,714 and $29,216 per tenant in 2020. I'm just curious because there were all of the COVID-19 pandemic related eviction moratoriums and rental assistance and all that, and basically landlords wouldn't have been able to get tenants out. So I was just kind of curious if maybe the buyouts during those years were higher than what they are now, but it doesn't look like that's the case at all. I personally thought they would be higher because if you can't evict your tenants, then you're going to have to pay them to leave, and maybe the tenants were staying longer though too because of those protections. But one of the things they mentioned here in the upper paragraph, they were talking about how these buyout agreements are legally recorded. Okay, and there's a reason that they do that, and I read an article about it a long time ago. I don't have the article right now, but from my understanding, before they were requiring landlords to legally record all of these buyouts, landlords, they were doing the buyouts, but some tenants were like, well, I didn't get as much as my next door neighbor, and that's not fair. It's not fair that I only got $10,000, but my next door neighbor got 30. Well, you know what? So now they require landlords to record it, because then they say, oh, well, then all the tenants can get paid, the same. So the thing is, right, this isn't, it's a negotiation process, and you negotiate with individuals, in my opinion. So if one tenant is willing to leave for 10 grand and another one takes 30, then so be it. It's not, like you were perfectly happy with 10 grand for free before, but now, you're jealous of the tenant right next to you who, got 30 grand. Oh, give me a freaking break. I mean, all of this, what it really comes down to, right, is there's this sense of entitlement between the tenants and all of these people. They believe that somebody else should pay me. I deserve everything. You don't deserve anything. You don't deserve anything. And the unfortunate fact is that they have the government in places in California, like San Francisco, that backing them up. Well, one day you may have to face the real world, okay, where you have to take care of yourself. The government's not going to protect you for the rest of your life.